Okay, you may have realised that one of the ways to keep your sanity and your stress levels down is to learn the art of delegating. But how do you make sure you've got confidence in the people you delegate to? This will only happen if you recruit, retain talent. So how do you recruit the right people? Today I'm delighted to have Michael Cunningham, CEO of the Camlin Group, which is one of Northern Ireland's leading businesses. So Michael, thanks very much for your time. Great to see you here. So can I just take you a wee bit of the journey of Camlin, where it is at the minute, and talk about your role in it?
Okay. Well, Camlin, we're based in Lisburn. So we're essentially a technology company focused on the power sector, the railway sector, and then with other sectors in healthcare and photonics and so forth. So really, we deploy technology in order to enable our customers or partners, as we like to think, to improve their operation, and that might be keeping the lights on, to put it simply, or keeping the trains running, improving the electrical network and the performance, and basically allowing them to get a better return on their investment.
With such a diverse portfolio, obviously trying to get the right people for each of those areas must be tough.
It is. That's one of the key challenges in the company. So we've grown from in 2008, whenever the company first came into fruition, which was out of a sale of a previous company. We've grown from 8 people in 2008 to just shy of 400 people 10 years later. So it's a significant rate of growth. But added to that is the complexity of the company. It's grown in terms of the markets that we're involved in, the geographical spread, the technologies. So it's a sort of multi-dimensional challenge, and to recruit and retain talent to drive that is not an easy task.
We talked earlier about recruitment off a CV or recruiting the individual. It's two different skill sets to get to know that person.
Very much so. We've had. I would be a big advocate that the primary driver is attitude.
Okay.
Attitude trumps everything, or should I say, actually, the lack of attitude beats everything else. So it's not to dismiss the importance of skill sets and resume and so forth, not at all, but you must have the right attitude. Because if you have the right attitude, everything else can follow, everything else can come to fruition. But if you don't have the right attitude, you can have every other box ticked and you're still going to lose. And there's been some good and some bitter experience has taught me that.
Okay. Not some bad stuff?
Yeah. You learn through experience, and we've had some really fantastic hires through the years, but also ones where we look back and say, well, why did that not work? Everything was right. We did the right process, we had the right skill sets, every box was ticked in, and then we realised that just the fit wasn't right. The values, the person just didn't resonate with the values of the company, and the attitude wasn't right.
And how do you do that? Some people use psychometric type testing, Colby tests, whatever. Do you believe in something like that, or is it just purely what the core values are, your recruitment team know what the core values are? And
yes, it's not that I don't believe in psychometric testing and so on. I do think that's something that we are going to look at, but we haven't implemented to date. And really it comes down to the leaders in the company instilling and driving those values and the importance of that.
So it comes from here down.
Yeah. Precisely. And from my perspective, learning that through experience then has taught me that whenever I'm delegating the requirement to, let's say, my direct reports, they understand what's important. Because I put that very clearly to them, and all reports above a certain level have to be signed off by senior management, and that keeps a certain amount of control. But often it's only when the person is really on board do you really get to know. It's so you can do your best and you can do all of your due diligence and everything, but that after recruitment piece is critical, because that first week, month, 6 months, you can very easily turn a good person off. Or you can really fire a person up by the proper onboarding process, really making sure that they understand their role, the expectations, how they fit into the bigger picture, and they can see the vision. And if you get that right, you can enable and empower the right person. If you get it wrong, you can turn off the right person, and it's entirely your own fault. So it's not just the recruitment piece. I believe it's also that period after the recruitment.
Yeah, so that initial onboarding process, you know, and how formally do you do that? Do you have like a 90-day plan for each person that you break down, or?
It's something we're trying again to improve upon all of the time, and it depends as well on roles.
Yeah.
Some roles it's more formal than others, but we do try, particularly for roles where it's having a real impact on the business.
Yeah.
You know, the critical hires have key, let's call them goals and objectives.
Yeah.
Here is what is expected of you. Here is exactly what you're being hired to do, and how we expect you to integrate into the company. And then there's a 3-month and a 6-month review process. So there's a formal 6-month probationary period for every hire, and then only at that 6-month period there is a formal sign off, and there's a halfway point, a 3-month sort of semi-formal, if you like, and the paperwork should all be there, and the line manager, and then their line manager has to sign off on it.
Because interesting, it's just while we're talking, I'm thinking about it, but you know, from a team of 8 to a team of 400, you know, it's not just recruiting, dare I say it, the people on the, you know, the ground, but the management team, you know, because getting the right management team who all believe in the same things must be absolutely critical to the growth of that company.
Yes, but the challenge is again multifaceted, because as you do that and you're growing at that rate, and it's obviously a sign of success, but it's also a tremendous challenge. And how do you retain the soul of the company? How do you augment and build it and not lose it? But to get that next generation of leadership in the company is critical. Like I the way I put it to my team leaders is, I want a team that is looking to retire me. I want to be able to look at guys who are wanting to take over.
Yeah.
You know, where's the next generation of guys wanting to put me out to seed? And
that's an interesting approach.
Yeah, I mean, because I did it.
Yeah.
And I want guys to do it to me. I want guys to want to take over in a positive way.
Yeah.
But if a company is growing, then the opportunities expand in a 360-degree fashion. It's not just linear growth. The opportunities are expanding. So there's room for people to grow into. So to have confidence in that. But to identify the talent and to then encourage and retain that talent is a challenge. But I don't believe there's any silver bullet to it. There's no set process. I think it's a matter of constantly challenging the people, making sure that they're getting direct, regular feedback, formal and informal, and then when they step up, then they get the next challenge and the next challenge, and more responsibility, and then the team almost selects itself. You know, it's and not to be afraid of youth. There is I think an inbuilt bias against youth. I'm not talking anything ridiculous here, but if somebody is in their mid-late 20s and somebody's in the mid-late 30s, it's not by definition that the mid-late 30s is better. Okay, they've maybe got 10 years more experience, but if the person at 26, 27 has warranted the next shot, give it to them. And let's see.
If you're good enough, you're old enough.
If you're good enough, you're old enough. Yeah, the old Alex Ferguson.
Yeah, because in a fast-moving business like yours, you know, with technology, you know, sometimes maybe the younger people take to that easier.
Potentially, yes. There's a large element of that. Like an example from my personal experience, whenever I moved out of frontline design engineering, I moved into the sort of more product management side. It wasn't very long before my frontline technical experience was almost redundant.
Moved so quickly.
It moved so quickly that the platforms that development occurred on, what I was familiar with, was so passé, even
Wow.
within 2 years. So the technology does move quickly, and you've got to accept that. You've got to embrace that. But there's more to it. It's embracing, I think, almost the confidence of youth and enabling the confidence of youth, but not at the same time being a slave to it.
We often hear about leading, not managing.
Yes.
You know, and if you're going to take a business to that size, it's got to be leadership. Presumably, you can't dictate to people what's going to happen.
Yes. True. What is the Steve Jobs? We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do, not hire smart people and tell them what to do. I think that's a very good point. The difference between leadership and management, and to strike that balance. I think one without the other, you're going to get into trouble if you focus on too much on one and not the other. Either way round. But you have to have the leadership where you can paint the vision, the why, what we're doing and the why, so people can buy into it and understand it, and there has to be something behind it. Can't just be empty rhetoric. But then you must have the management of how to deliver that, the right down to the daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly rigor. And it's how do you stitch those two together is a constant issue and a constant challenge in a company that's growing like ours.
One of the things I always admire about your business and you is, look, you've got a fast growing business, okay, and we know that, but it's, what comes across is you always want to learn, you always want to improve, you're always trying to make it better, and the systems and controls that you put in place when you're a smaller business, they have to change presumably.
Totally. The way that we ran the business, even a year ago, much of that is not fit for purpose this time, and it will be the same next year. So you've constantly got to be looking both inside and outside for best practice. How do we learn? How do we learn from experience? How do we learn from other companies, other resources? And it's, in a way, there's almost one of the biggest problems in any company or any team is ego, in my opinion. You must leave that out the door. That's not to say you don't have confidence. You have to have that. You have to have confidence in what you're doing and your vision. But ego is a different thing. And to think that, well, this is the way we do it. So constantly looking outside. Actually, we can copy with pride the way this company does things. We can learn from the mistakes they made, or make sure we learn from mistakes that we made. So we're constantly trying to look at how do we improve our project management, how do we improve our projection skills, how do we improve our recruitment, retention, HR policies. And some we lose, some we win, but trying to constantly improve. So as COO, I'm constantly beating the drum across the company of the mantra of continuous improvement in all things. Continuous improvement in not just the obvious manufacturing and quality arena that people would assume where continuous improvement lives, but in everything, from how do we do our projections, how do we close sales, how good is our administration, how good is every element of what we do. So right down to the individual, what do you do on a daily basis, and how do you ensure there's a continuous improvement plan in that? And it's constantly evolving, because it has to. That the most complicated product or system that we ever produce is the company. So we produce systems which are multifaceted, tremendously complicated, but none of them are as complicated as a company. So in my regard, I look at myself as the COO as that's my product, is the company, and it's a continuous project that never ends, and it'll never be right. You can never say, okay, we've got there. You haven't. But to experience the teething problems, the growth problems, the real frustrations, to also understand, again, in my opinion, that every company in the world has gone through this. There's no company that exists today that has gone from start-up to a successful site that hasn't gone through
very much so.
They just have their own version of it, and some succeed better at it. Some maybe are slower at adapting, and some it kills them. In fact, most it kills. But any company that's gone through that, they could write books on their own challenges.
That's very interesting, actually, because you do think of, you see the Amazon, okay, and you see, most people see where it is now, but didn't see that the journey they had to go through and all the troubles that they had, you know.
And also, don't be lured into thinking that when you see other companies, what you're seeing is what they want you to see.
Yeah.
And which is fine. But I had a period of time after the sale of the older business. I was with a large multinational who bought the business, and then when you actually see the insides, it's often chaos as well.
Wow.
They're no better. In fact, on many occasions, much worse than what we thought we were doing. Actually, maybe we weren't so bad.
Yeah.
What we were trying to do was right, or in the right direction at least. So be constantly striving, but also have confidence in what you're doing, and it's to get that balance right, and making sure that confidence is tethered very closely to the humility to actually continually strive for improvement.
If I could ask you, what's your preference, informal reviews or formal reviews? What do you get more value out of?
Goodness, that's a tough one. That is very tough.
Because I find the formal ones are almost like the interview process, where here's my CV, I'm well prepared, I've got the answers.
Yeah.
Whereas I find the informal one is maybe you get more out of it.
Well, where we are as a business at the moment is we're still tethered to more of the formal.
Okay.
There's almost an informal process that goes on a team by team basis. Like me personally, I tend to be more informal.
Yeah.
But the process in the company at the moment is still relatively formal. We've streamlined it somewhat. At one stage it became too cumbersome. On paper it was fantastic. The implementation was too cumbersome.
Tick the box if somebody came in and said, do you have a process for this? Yes, I do.
But as we grew, it just became slightly unmanageable. But where we want to get to is more of that continuous informal feedback. But I think there is probably a year-long program for us to get there. So if I have a clear picture in my head of where the company will be in a year's time, which I do, it'll be a continuous informal feedback process that will take place of a formal review, if you like.
Wow, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot of work.
I think it's tied directly to how we're trying to implement and improve our sort of project delivery, or management of priorities, and so on, and the goals and objectives are, as we call them, OKRs in the company. So it's the flip side of that, and we see that as being a big win, if you like, because that management of staff, that HR, that appraisal it's something that is essential, but it is difficult.
Yeah.
It is difficult, and sometimes managers, just out of human nature, almost shy away from it. They don't want to get at that. Maybe it's a difficult conversation they don't want to have. Or
people on the whole are non-confrontational. And we always find sometimes when you're promoting from within, just because they're very good at, say, being a particular engineer, and then you put them in charge of an engineering division, completely different skill sets, and it's maybe the person who's not the best engineer who can actually do it better. They're the people person. They can empathise with people.
We've probably, like every company, had lots of examples of that, and it doesn't do anybody any favours when you make that mistake, where somebody evolves into a position and they find themselves almost exposed because they're not capable of this management, this other realm, whereas you're actually taking them away from maybe the deep domain expertise that they've got. But how to avoid that is not simple. But you have to have the HR processes and commitment to do that, and we as a company are continuously trying to evolve our HR to improve and keep up with the growth. And we would be, I would say, probably in my opinion, almost like constantly 6 months behind.
Yeah.
You know, but that's maybe just my opinion because that's.
At what point in the growth of the business do you outsource versus bring it internally? So, for example, HR.
Yes. Well, our example of that was probably whenever we hit around the 100 to 150 people mark.
Right. Okay.
We really noticed that we've got to get more direct control of this. It became too difficult. It became too unwieldy, and it was the same whenever we were growing the company in the original time. It was once we got to about the 80, 90 people, we had to bring direct financial control in rather than outsourcing.
Yeah.
It's a similar idea, but there's well-known phenomenon where was it the D number where above 150 people you cannot mentally keep control of that with one person. It's just not possible, and so I'd say around about the 100 people mark was where I would be thinking in a company you've got to have at that stage either have on board or seriously looking at having a specific HR function in place.
Because in a smaller business, you wear different hats.
Yes.
And as it grows, you end up concentrating your time in certain areas. So, like COO of such an operation, how do you keep on top of it yourself? Long hours, I get it.
Yeah.
Good team.
Yes, I think that the critical thing is the team, and also the other part is having a clear vision of what it is you want to do. It's focus. So there's one word I would say that underpins success or failure. It's focus or the lack of it.
Okay.
So it's if you have a clear focus of what you need to do, and then you have the team that is able to deliver that, and you can present that clear picture and enable them to do it, then you have a chance, because you cannot just throw more hours at a problem. You can do it for a period, you can do it for a short stint, but it's just not sustainable in the long run. And people who say that it is and have almost a macho approach to it, it's all interesting and so on, but come and talk to me in 5 years' time.
Yeah. It's a badge of honour to go, oh, I'm so busy.
Yeah, and that's interesting, but again, the person who is too busy to take phone calls or too busy, they're, to me, not adding real value. You have to have sustainability in your approach.
Yeah.
In my opinion, again, there are periods when you recognise I'm just going to have to really drill down here and focus. This next month is going to be, the shoulder to the pump. That's fine, but it can't be the next 10 years like that, because it's not sustainable. Or if you make that decision, you're sacrificing many other things, and that could be a decision you want to make. It's not a decision I want to make, and it's not one that I would ever advocate, and it's not one that I want any of my team doing. So anybody who works for me, if they're consistently working late, I go, why are you doing that? I have one guy who's a direct report, a senior product manager, where I continuously have to tell him to go home, because I don't want him working at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. I don't mind whenever there's a particular deadline, good.
Yeah.
But go home, take the dog for a walk, whatever it is you want to do, and then come back in the morning.
Refreshed.
Yeah, exactly. And you want the attitude and you want the commitment, but that balance is crucial, and it's up to the leadership in a company to ensure that you're sort of clarifying the vision, ensuring the focus, resourcing the team, and then constantly reviewing, rinse and repeat, so that there's the ability to deliver it.
And when you've got those things in place, are presumably then the recruitment bit is a lot easier, because you can articulate the vision, you can articulate who you are, what you're going to do.
Yes, and we have good examples of that, where for the very same role we had a couple of failures and then a success, because of the lack of the ability to articulate the role clearly. Yeah. And it wasn't the fault of the people that came in. There was maybe an element of maybe not quite the right mix, but then whenever I finally was able to get to the point where I could clearly explain or paint the vision, this is what I want and this is how I want it done, Now you're going to come in and do
That part, yeah.
the detail of it, and the values, which was a key part of it, because in this, I remember specifically with this role, which was is a senior role in the company. Actually, he was third on the list if you took purely the resume, the skill sets, the box. He was third. I said, no, this guy will resonate. He will deliver. He understands where we need to go. He understands where we are. And whenever he came in, it was actually has been better than I envisaged. He's added a huge amount of value to the company, and is going, touch wood, to be a senior leader in the company for years to come.
Class. I could talk forever. Okay, this is fantastic, really interesting. But if I can ask you, if somebody was here in my chair and they were looking to move into an entrepreneurial career, set up their own business, is there one piece of advice that you would give them?
One. Well, as an entrepreneur, you're never going to be dealing with one thing.
Yeah.
They have to know that.
Yeah,
from the
yeah,
start.
of course.
But I think it would be the focus bit. Focus.
Right.
Because while focus isn't going to solve all of your problems, the lack of it will destroy everything else, or has the potential to destroy everything, because you will get distracted every day, every week. There'll be a mountain of things coming at you that you often just don't see coming. But if you have a clear picture in your head of what you need to do and why you need to do it, and just keep that focus and make sure you don't get blown off track. If you keep that focus, then you've got a fighting chance. And that's, if there was one piece of advice that I would give to anybody that's starting out, focus. Would be it. Mm-hmm.
Michael, thank you. I wish you and the Cunningham Group all the success.
Thank you very
It's
much.
been terrific to see, and I know you'll go from strength to strength, so appreciate the time. Thanks.